The Constitutional Court will reveal its findings in the Nkandla saga on Thursday. Preliminary figures show a dramatic drop in Easter road deaths. Hello and welcome to it. You're watching eNEWS Direct. I'm Duduzile Ramela.
And I'm Sandy de Kangose. Good evening.
To comment on any of our stories, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook. That's at eNEWS Direct.
Yep, and tonight's hashtags are Nkandla and Easter stats.
And we start with this. South Africans will find out on Thursday whether President Jacob Zuma has violated the country's constitution. That's when the Constitutional Court is expected to hand down judgment in the Nkandla case. The economic freedom fighters and the Democratic Alliance approached the court in an attempt to get Zuma to pay back some of the money spent on the upgrades to his homestead. Shortly before the case was heard in February, Zuma offered to pay back some of the money. In other news, fewer people have died on South African roads this Easter. That's according to preliminary statistics from the Transport Department. Authorities hope these improved numbers mean South Africa is winning the war on road fatalities.
More South Africans have made it home from their holidays this Easter, a sign the minister says that road safety campaigns are paying off.
There were 156 fatalities on the roads this year, compared to 287 fatalities for the same period last year. This represents a much welcomed 46% decline.
A breakdown of provincial road deaths shows the biggest drop in the northwest. Second, the Free State, 11 deaths, down from 23 in 2015. And the busy holiday province of KwaZulu-Natal has recorded 28 deaths, down from last year's 55. But not everyone agrees we're winning the war on road deaths.
Now, I don't mean to be a prophet of doom, but traditionally what happens is that when an Easter weekend falls at the end of the month or just after the end of the month, your fatalities tend to skyrocket because of people who get paid at the end of the month rather than people that get paid on the 25th, 26th of the month.
Traffic officials disagree.
We did a dry run simply because we are aware that this will be asked as to whether the closure of the school had any impact. So wanted to ensure that we begin to compare apples with apples. Indeed, the intensified law enforcement had a bearing in the reduction of these figures.
However, traffic authorities warn there's still a long way to go before the country's road accident record is under control.
Good news for small-scale fishermen. They've been thrown a lifeline. President Jacob Zuma signed the amended Marine Living Resources Act into law, giving fishing rights to traditional fishing communities. This comes after years of battles with the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries when the law favored commercial fishing.
Traditional coastal communities have been making a living out of fishing for decades. But they've been marginalized through the Marine Living Resources Act, which meant they could not legally fish for their livelihood. They were further sidelined through the commercial fishing rights allocation process. In 2007, they won their case in the Equality Court, compelling government to start issuing them temporary fishing permits.
The implementation is basically prescribed in the small-scale fishing regulations, and that's a new legislation now that has been approved by the minister, and that essentially indicates how communities can be part of this process and how the DAF will facilitate this process with those communities.
The department, however, is yet to determine the amount of fish they can catch, as they will now be sharing with near-shore commercial fishers. While fishing communities are happy, the process still makes them nervous.
There is always anxiety, there's always doubts, because although our rights are recognized, the rights will still be allocated. There's still going to be a process to apply for those rights. How many fishes are going to be financed? How many will each community get? It's less and less every year, the total allowable catches.
The department will be visiting each community that has submitted an interest in verifying and registering fishermen in their communities. The submission deadline is the 7th of April. I'm Tongana, Cape Town.
The Hawks are hoping to make a breakthrough in the Senzo Meyiwa murder case very soon. However, they've denied media reports that they are planning to arrest one of the witnesses to the shooting. Bafana goalkeeper Meyiwa died after he was shot in the back during an apparent armed robbery in 2014. The Hawks say forensic evidence will be crucial to explaining how and why he was shot.
This is the house where Senzo Meyiwa was fatally shot in October 2014. It appears abandoned now, but remains a key part of the Hawks' bid to solve his murder. On Sunday, the 13th of March, the Hawks did a reconstruction of the shooting that claimed Senzo Meyiwa's life with the people who were in the house with him at the time. They include Kelly Khumalo, her mother, sister, and her sister's boyfriend, Longwe Twala, who is the son of musician Selo Chico.
Every person who was in that house was there, so we had to do a sort of a mock reconstruction of what actually happened in the house. And we are hoping that with this new information that we might have gathered, it will take us somewhere.
Ballistics expert Chris Mangena was involved in that reconstruction. The process may prove key to understanding why Meyiwa was shot, if he was killed accidentally during a botched robbery or because he was trying to protect his singer girlfriend Kelly Khumalo, seen here during her aborted trial on charges that she assaulted Meyiwa's wife. The Hawks won't comment on what the reconstruction revealed, but are adamant that none of the witnesses to the shooting are suspects. Molautsi says the Hawks are confident those responsible for Meyiwa's death will be arrested very soon, but can't say exactly when that will happen. Karen Moore, Johannesburg.
A Lebanese man who's been behind bars in Egypt since 2014 has finally been freed. Sheikh Abdul Salam Bassioni's family say the 65-year-old, who holds both Egyptian and South African citizenship, was released early this morning.
There have been prayers for Sheikh Abdul Salam Bassioni's release for over a year. There have also been protests.
My father has been released.
Now, finally, some good news.
I spoke to him. The family Skyped him during the night, and we spoke to him for about an hour. He was extremely relieved, and we relieved to actually see him in the comfort of our family.
Last week, a pre-trial Egyptian court ordered the release of the father of six. His family says Sheikh Bassioni, also a grandfather of six, was jailed for nearly 500 days without charge. He was accused of being part of the Muslim Brotherhood. The hope is that he'll return to South Africa soon, a country he calls his home.
We need to verify his situation first and to have more details about his release. And as soon as we do have that, we then would like to see him come home as soon as possible.
The Bassionis, however, remain anxious.
We have been shocked once before, my father being taken unjustly in the beginning. Makes the family very anxious about everything. So this belief will continue until we actually see him tangibly next to us and sitting here, perhaps in my place.
While Bilal Bassioni prepares for his father's return, the South African government says it's still awaiting for confirmation that Sheikh Bassioni has indeed been freed. Malungelo Boy, Lenasia.
International news now, and the hijacker of an Egyptian airliner has been arrested. The EgyptAir flight was carrying 81 passengers from Alexandria to Cairo. Saif el-Din Mustafa forced it to divert to Cyprus, claiming he was wearing an explosive belt. Apparently, he asked to speak to his estranged wife, who lives in Cyprus.
Just after midday, some of the remaining hostages were seen leaving the plane. Shortly afterwards, the hijacker, Saif el-Din Mustafa, was arrested. Earlier, he had posed for selfies with some of his hostages. He claimed to have a suicide belt, taking the aircraft as it was travelling from Alexandria to Cairo. He then forced it to land at Larnaca Airport in Cyprus. Following negotiations, Mustafa released everyone on board, except 3 passengers and 4 crew members. Egyptian authorities want to know how he got his equipment onto the plane.
We don't know yet how he got to, how do you call it, get the equipment he has, and we don't know whether the equipment is true or real or not. And this will come as an outcome of the investigation thereafter.
No one was hurt in the incident. 81 people were aboard the Airbus A320.
And a gunman is in a critical condition after being shot by police at the U.S. Capitol Visitor Center. A bystander was also wounded. Police say the weapon carried by the 66-year-old suspect, Larry Dawson, may have been a pellet gun. Dawson was known to police after he'd been arrested in October for interrupting a House of Representatives session, shouting he was a prophet of God.
Meanwhile, Duduzile is standing by to tell us what people are talking about on social media.
Indeed I am. Thank you so much, Sandile. And we start with graduation news. The University of South Africa is making news, but the real subject is the EFF's Commander-in-Chief, Julius Malema. The party says Malema is graduating tomorrow after completing his Bachelor of Arts degree. Congratulations to him. And we move on to this. South African National Park says it will put down Sylvester the lion once he is captured. It has gone missing for the second time from the Karoo National Park, sparking a costly 3-week search. It seems this time he got out by crawling under the electric fence. SANParks says Sylvester has become a problem after killing 30 animals last year alone. Remember to comment on any of our stories. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook. That's at eNEWS Direct, or you can head on over to our website. That's enca.com/direct. Do stay with us. After the break, we've got your business news as well as your detailed weather forecast. Welcome back. Money Matters now, and the sugar industry says it's well set to supply the market despite the severe drought. Trade and Industry Minister Rob Davies says production estimates for 2016-2017 indicate sufficient supply. The two biggest refineries, Johannesburg and Hewlett's, have agreed to open early. Currently off-season, the industry produces an estimated average of 2.2 million tons per season. About 60% of this is marketed in the Southern African Customs Union. The rest goes to export markets. The sugar industry generates direct income of about 8 billion rand annually. It employs close to 80,000 people. And confidence in the country's manufacturing sector is at its lowest level in 6 years. The Bureau for Economic Research's manufacturing survey slipped 16 points between January and March. The survey measures the level of confidence among local manufacturers. The fall to 18 points shows weak production and job creation in the sector. It also points to further proof of slowing economic growth from the latter part of 2015. The BER says the negative factors are unlikely to reverse during the rest of the year. Local exports are under pressure despite a weaker rand. Right, let's see how the markets perform today. Apologize about that, but let's check in with the Weather Center now. Here's Louis Fernandez.
Good evening and welcome to the Weather Center. Let's take a look at the day's satellite imagery, and we see it was another sunny and clear day over the country. It was also very warm for most parts of the country, although it was fairly windy over the western parts ahead of an approaching cold front, and that also brought strong winds to the peninsula and the rest of the southwestern Cape during the afternoon. At the same time, a bit of light rain has been settling in over that area, and we're going to see that rain continuing into tomorrow. KwaZulu-Natal, on the other hand, will be sunny, hot and dry, many areas reaching the mid-30s on Wednesday afternoon. And in the Eastern Cape, it's also going to be mostly dry, but cloud cover will thicken in the east towards evening, and a bit of light rain is going to settle in for East London and Bishu during the course of the evening hours. That cold front will have moved through the Western Cape, but showers are still going to be pushing in, mainly in the morning over the western parts, reaching Robertson and perhaps even Bredasdorp. In the Northern Cape, on the other hand, a dry day has been forecast. It'll be partly cloudy over the western parts, where it's going to be quite cool. Calvinia reaches a high of only 19. Sunny, hot and dry weather for the Free State. A cold morning for some areas. Bethlehem, Harrismith and Zastron all get to 30 degrees. And it's going to be another dry day for the northwest. Lots of sunshine expected and a hot afternoon once again. Temperatures rising across Limpopo for Wednesday. Palabora gets to 37 while Lephalale will get to a very hot 35. And we're going to see very sunny weather across Mpumalanga during the course of Wednesday. And it's going to be cold at first for eMakhazeni and Standerton, both starting off at only 6 degrees. Cold as well for Vereniging, first thing to start off your Wednesday. And in the afternoon, it's going to be another hot day across Gauteng, Pretoria at 33. Let's look ahead to Thursday, and we're expecting it to be mostly cloudy with light rain along parts of the eastern Cape coastline, perhaps even a bit of drizzle for Durban. And as we head into Friday, that area dries up while another cold front moves in over the Western Cape, and there's a slight possibility for a few thunder showers for Kimberley and Bloemfontein.
Thank you, Louis. After the break, one of America's biggest comedy stars, Kevin Hart, gets serious about being in South Africa. Welcome back. US comedian Kevin Hart has officially smashed a South African record. 16,000 people at his comedy showcase.
There's a lot of people. His What Now tour started in April 2015 and has toured the US, Europe and Australia.
And it's seen at least 53,000 people turn up to his show in his hometown of Philadelphia alone.
And as such, we caught up with the US comedian at a press conference.
Yep, you've probably heard he's in town. Witnessed the social media hype too, including his posts showing off a hell of a good time touring the country. Now he's in Johannesburg, making the most of the last leg of his SA tour. Kevin Hart's What Now tour has crisscrossed the globe, starting off with a successful domestic US tour before hitting the UK. So, does Kevin Hart adapt any of his material to the countries he's performing in?
As far as my stand-up comedy and me on stage, nothing changes. You know what you're getting. That's why people bought tickets to the show. I'm not going to shortchange you and give you nothing less than what was given to other countries. So expect an amazing show.
Is it awkward that he didn't choose any local acts to open up for his SA leg of his tour?
Those comedians that open for me are not just comedians, they're part of my company. You know, as far as the comedians here in South Africa, I'm not as well informed on them maybe as I should be. I know some of them.
Well, after rubbing shoulders with Trevor Noah, we all remember that moment, yeah? Hart says we should be really proud of the man. Go, Trevor!
His big moment was one of the toughest big moments because everybody wanted to see the guy that was replacing Jon Stewart fail. Nobody watched that to say, oh, this is going to be amazing. They watched it to say, he's probably not going to be that good. And he stood in those shoes and did an amazing job.
Hart will be showcasing his wit and humor at the Dome on Wednesday night. Nantobeko CBC, Johannesburg.
A reminder of the day's top stories now before we say goodbye. The Constitutional Court will reveal its findings in the Nkandla saga on Thursday. A dramatic drop in the number of Easter road deaths. And that's a wrap from the eNEWS Direct team.
It is indeed. We're back same time tomorrow. Up next, Rhythm City.
Remember to share your views with us. You can send us an email to enewsdirect@etv.co.za.
Or just chat to us on Twitter and Facebook, and our handle is @eNewsDirect.
Until tomorrow night, have a fantastic evening. Bye-bye.